I'm here with Millie, and we're talking about stress eating tonight. Millie, why do people eat when they're stressed?
Well, I think it gives them a certain amount of gratification for one big thing. And two, when you have a little something on your stomach, it helps you feel a little calmer sometimes and less stressed. And I think that's what they want from eating. I know I have experienced times in my life when I haven't felt so good, and I'd go out in the kitchen and open the cookie jar and eat a cookie, and that would seem to calm me down a little. And then I'd say, "Kevin, don't you want a cookie too?" He'd say, "No, Mom, I'm full." So gradually, he did gain a little weight, which I'm proud to say that he did, because he seemed like he was quite thin there for a while. So that was one way of me helping him put on a little weight. Whew, I got a real rock from that.
You mentioned cookies. Why do people choose those types of foods to eat when they're stressed?
Well, it all depends on the individuals. Some people like cookies. Some people like cake. Some people like donuts. Some people like ice cream. Some people like shortbread with molasses. I mean, it takes all kinds.
Is there any particular reason that people would choose those kind of foods to eat when they're stressed?
I think so. Depending on what kind of stress you have. If you just have a little stress, it might not affect you much at all. Then you get to the second level, which is sort of the medium. You might say, "Well, I'm kind of hungry tonight. I haven't eaten all day. I'd like to go out and have a little dinner this evening." And bear in mind, this is your last meal of the day, and you haven't eaten nothing yet. I would just suggest a regular, normal meal to that person. I think they could eat it all and maybe be fairly satisfied then. And no dessert right now. You can have a little dessert before you go to bed, maybe, huh? Place that a little apart so you don't eat too much at once, is what I'm stressing. Eating too much at once isn't good for a person also. It's harder to digest, and if you go to bed soon, you might have nightmares. Sometimes I've eaten quite a bit of food and went to bed, and oh boy, I'm not going to tell you what all I've dreamt about, but oh well, that's beside the point. But here's hoping you never have any of those dreams I've had. So anyway, people, please be vigilant about this. And don't think it can't happen to you. It can. I'm telling you the truth. Okay, so the next time you go to bed and you're a little hungry, I say a little hungry, you don't have to be real hungry. You're just a little hungry. You might just pick up a cookie or a piece of cake or just a little something, to hold you over through the night, that you don't get up and want food. Because getting up at night, especially late at night, isn't good for several reasons. And I'll tell you my first reason. It disturbs Kevin and I with our sleep, and the next morning we get kind of grumpy. That isn't good. So I think if you're just a little hungry, you might take a cookie or a piece of cake or just a little something. Not a whole lot, just to hold you over. And, that would sort of do it, I think. So this is not the time of day for a big meal. It's just a time of day, like sort of for a nightcap. You've heard of people saying nightcaps. Well, I've always thought that was a drink, of alcohol of some type. I'm calling it a nightcap, just to hold you over till in the morning, so you don't get too hungry before you eat the next morning and want to gobble everything down, which has happened to me. And I think that for the elderly, for the very younger set, that a little something at night helps you put you to sleep even, because you get those hormones going and they kick in, and when they kick in, it gives you a shove, and that shove is off to sleep. Now, why it does that at night especially, I don't know, but I guess it's just one of those things that happen. Of course, I don't know, if you eat a big evening meal, you're pretty full then. And they've always suggested to me to eat something before I went to bed, because I've had these nightmares. And with me, I'll eat something and go to bed and go to sleep, and I'll have these nightmares in a worse condition. I don't understand that, but it's just the way it works with me. It might not work that way with everyone, though. We all have our own dispositions. With me, eating a little something could give me a good nightmare, which I'm afraid of at night. So calming me down at night before I go to sleep is always good. I hate those nightmares. They scare me to death sometimes. And Kevin says that I'll wake up screaming, yelling, kicking, or something of that nature. And I don't want to do that. So
avoid late night eating.
Oh yes, please, dear friends, avoid that very late night eating. You might eat a little something like a cookie or a tiny piece of cake. You might eat a little thing of bologna and cheese. Not much of nothing, just enough to send y'all off to dreamland. Now remember, this isn't the main meal. It's just a snack to tide you over till in the morning. Remember that. So, some nights I've consumed quite a bit of food before I went to bed, went to sleep. Kevin would tell me that I have woke up in the morning screaming and yelling that I had a bad dream last night.
Yeah.
And I would say, I wonder what caused that, absent-mindedly. I wasn't thinking that the night before I had more than a nightcap.
Uh-huh.
I had more of a meal. Well, I guess I was kind of hungry because I hadn't eaten much at supper. When you sit down and stop to think about it, you gotta think of all the things that made you hungry too. Yeah, yesterday I was quite vigorous, and I decided to clean out my dresser drawer, which was completely empty because of the virus and that. There was nothing there to clean. So I got pretty anxious about that. What in the world am I going to do today to give me a little oomph or pick up or something, you know? So I looked around, and finally I thought there must be something I can do today. So I got Kevin